I'm very interested in having the perspective as an artist. When do I need counseling, and what is it exactly?
When I started, I noticed that a lot of artists that I worked with were having a lot of pressure inside themselves, but also outside, and especially a lot of social media is going on right now, of course, and all kind of expectations. But they've really found it very hard because if they're making music, they're alone. They're very introverted people. And then suddenly they have to perform on stage, and that's very extroverted. Also, they're not living in the moment, especially the really big artists. They've started with passion and love and becoming bigger and bigger. And then suddenly they can't enjoy the moment anymore. They just think of more. I have to make a new record, or I want to perform on Tomorrowland.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
so it's like a hamster in a roundup thing, they can't stop. So, or constantly the mask on. They constantly have to say, hi, they never can be themselves.
In the overall music industry in the Netherlands, how do you feel about the way this question is treated?
I started 5 years ago asking ADE, can we please talk about this? Because we talk about labels and we talk about new music, but nobody was talking about the mental state. And in the beginning, when I start my business, I know a lot of people in the dance industry, and everybody was saying, oh, you do a great job, great. It's not for my artists, but for everybody else. So there was a big taboo also going on. And then after Avicii, then really a lot of managers were thinking, oh my God, this can happen as well. At first I speak a lot of managers who also thought, I can do that. I speak to my artists and I can make sure he's feeling okay, or the booking agent. But they all have different interests. They're not really for the artist. Yeah. Even if they think, well, they're also thinking about the 15% or the 10% booking fee or management fee.
One of the things I found very interesting in our study is, number one, how artists will try to wonder what it is that they can do. And I'm not saying, and I think, yes, we need to do things to make ourselves healthy and to be okay. But what our study revealed was, how systemic the working practices of the music industry are, that make it so difficult for people to have time out. But I think it's very important for the musicians themselves not always to think they are responsible, or you don't need to be Superman. You don't need to be, you need to be able to go, actually, this is wrong. Nobody should be working 24/7 and never turn their phone off and reply to every email and make a new track every 5 minutes.
As a young professional in music, do you feel like it is important for you and for your relationship with your artists to be interested in these questions at the early stages of the career you're building?
Yes, it's really important because, and especially in Belgium, because I wouldn't say that I wouldn't qualify the Belgian music industry as an industry, because all confirmed artists were obliged to sign a deal in France or to export. And then this is due to the size of the country and also to the infrastructure, which is not yet very developed. So you imagine that the mental health of artists is completely neglected. It's not even questioned, and especially in the world of hip hop. There's a big gap between experienced artists, independent artists who have a team, and also single artists.
How do you feel about, say, the responsibility rap music can positively have on this topic, especially in Belgium?
For me, rappers are the new politics. They have a power that they don't imagine, and they have a responsibility to share messages and good thoughts to the people.
What made you care so much about the articulations of artists, and how important it is as an artist to take care not only about how you feel on the inside in your head, but how to feel physically, your physical health?
Since my professional experience in conservatory, the École Normale of Music and Orchestra, I met more than 6,000 instrumentists from all styles of music, from classic to jazz to more modern. And I must say that today, the injury for the body is stress. And it's very important to speak about stress and to help musicians to work with it. Because there's not enough prevention in conservatory. There's not enough of physiotherapists who knows the artists, because it's a specialized treatment. You know that you have to be sensitive to speak with artists. You have to learn to understand their fear, because they play with emotion. And it's true that on internet, there's a lot of proposition of stretching, but how can you choose exactly what is good for you? Musicians stay with their pain and they overwork on their pain. And this is bad, because one day the body says, no, it's too much.
Right.
So if musicians have pain, they have to consult their doctor. They have to see doctors who are specialized, because musician feels guilty. They feel guilty because they have pain.
I want to know more about your practice and what brought you from working in the music industry to wanting to be a help somewhere else in the music industry.
I worked about 10 years in the music business in a distribution company. I was a label manager. I just got some way fed up, and I think I was lucky enough to kind of avoid a burnout. I was just very tired. Mostly by the very long working days. After a break, I would realize that I would just pursue a career in health and become a naturopath, which is like a holistic health practitioner. I try to analyze my patients' habits and lifestyle, and try to understand the root cause of the issues they have. I think the biggest struggle that we face in the industry is systemic. So there is nothing I can personally do for that. But it's like we need to kind of change the taboo and open the discussion about mental health. We need to have like an open conversation within offices, within different businesses, so publishers, tour agents, managers, musicians. We just really need all to sit down and talk and think about what is possible. Even though in my opinion, like the main obstacle would be money. Not in terms of how to fund health, but we are all in a business to make money in a way, like to earn a living. So we really need to balance these needs with our more personal with our more personal needs.
We ran the first French study on mental health for artists, and as you were saying, we wanted to include music professionals. So it's the first for artists and music professionals in France. So what can you tell us about the results of this first French study?
We ran this study last year in May, and we published results in October. And our panel was 500 persons. Half of them were male and females, and half of them were musicians and music professionals. We had 4 out of 5 people who said that they are having that they are struggling with anxiety. And we also have 25% who got diagnosed in their lifetime with depression at least once. it's really important to understand the figures within the music industry, but also compare them with the rest of France. And the latest figures about depression in France are 10% of the population will suffer from depression once in their lifetime. So what happens is like musicians or music business professionals in France are 2 times more likely to be diagnosed with depression. So it really shows about their sensitivity. 1 out of 3 women who declared that they were suffering or that they had suffered from sexual harassment. And we have 1 people out of 2, especially women, most of them were women, who suffered from moral harassment.
Right.
So if you're talking about mental health, as again, we're not talking about feeling guilty or being alone in the dark and anxious. It's, as we said, it's a system, and everyone is concerned. I mean, we see the power of this taboo because people don't really know how to talk, who to talk to. And as a matter of fact, in our figures, we also had 3 out of 5 people who didn't seek for help. And half of them didn't know that they needed help, or they didn't know who to ask help. The obstacles towards good mental health is structural, as we said, but it's also pretty much based on gender. I hope we can discuss and people will get more aware of that for themselves and for the other.
I was wondering if you believe that working together on a European study can lead and can help state a clear diagnosis of what's going on and help us work alongside concrete solutions that can be sharing clearer informations or putting together workshops or finding ways to help struggling artists to find the funds to get the help they deserve.
I've been talking now about music and mental health since 2017 around the world. The recognition from the music community is very strong. So I think people are getting together, and we need to be communicating with each other, and we need to be working on this. But at the same time, I think in terms of the European support, individual governmental support for musicians, at this point, there has to be some kind of universal basic income across Europe to bring all musicians away from living like they're always on the edge of the cliff. We have to address the very fundamentals of the economic impact of being a musician, the time it takes, how much time of your life have you spent being a musician, right? So we've got a lot of learning to do, but we need urgently to address very fundamental questions about how people live, and people need economic support in order to breathe. You have to have bread. They are very fundamental things.
Definitely.
And we're at a crucial moment, and I think the music community has a role to play in that.